Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Michael Overstreet, the Director of Security Solutions Engineering for U.S. Public Sector at Cisco. Michael, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Terry. It's great to be here.
We're going to chat a little bit about the convergence of IT and operational technology. So let's start at the beginning with that. How has the convergence of those two things changed the cybersecurity demands for federal agencies?
Well, what we've seen is the plethora of IoT products and technology coming into what used to be a segmented network where they were separate, or even if they had network connectivity, they're now a part of the network that our cybersecurity analysts and customers facing the challenges of dealing with all these new OT devices coming on the network, and it's causing a larger attack surface that's dramatically increased and causing a lot of concern, lack of visibility, lack of understanding what these devices do. Also, that these devices are connected to critical infrastructure. Think transportation, energy, healthcare, like defense facilities. And even some of these devices connect back to a cloud environment or an environment outside of the um, outside of the agency's perimeter. So all that expands that attack surface, like I mentioned, and it becomes something that can be dramatically and operationally very challenging for the agencies. And then on top of that, we have all these legacy OT devices and applications that are running, collecting data that are very difficult to secure because security wasn't embedded or a part of the thought process back when they first brought these on. And then we add compliance frameworks and mandates, and it just becomes an incredibly difficult challenge, like I said, for our agency customers to deal with.
Can you give us some examples of those OT devices and maybe talk about whether there are specific threat vectors or vulnerabilities that have become even more prominent with the convergence?
Yeah, so some of the things you can think about, we used to have thermostats that ran the HVAC systems in buildings that were just a dumb device that basically turned the temperature up or down, turned on the heat or the cooling. Now those things are very smart enabled, and they reach back to maybe an application running in a cloud that can potentially uh, change the how energy efficient the building and the AC are. So that is just one example. And now it's reaching back to a cloud that opens the door for an adversary to take advantage of potentially a way into the network with this device. Because if it's not segmented or separated, it gives that adversary an opportunity to move in. That's just one. Think about if you look at in the transportation industry, airport 30, 40 years ago, all those lights, all those things that were running around the terminal, that brought aircraft in, moved things out, that moved luggage around the terminal, all that was not connected. All those sensors are now part of the network and something that people that run airports have to deal with day in and day out. So it's just the amount of OT devices has grown exponentially. And then, well, if we move past that and just look at healthcare, right? If you walk into a patient's room or into a hospital, just into the hospital itself, there's so many devices that are network connected that bring patient data and telemetry to those care providers that really need to understand what's going on a real time basis for that patient. But all that's flowing across the network. And those devices, as well as the things we mentioned around transportation or building infrastructure, whatever, those are really, really becoming more and more critical. And they're all network connected and provide our adversaries an avenue to attack the network that our agencies and government customers are provide an avenue to attack the networks that our agency and government customers are trying to defend.
Talk to us then about the complexities that add on to the environment you've just described when you're talking about defense or classified environments.
Right. So now you have a classified environment where maybe the building is a secure facility, yet those OT devices still exist. Maybe they're on a segmented network that's on the unclass side, but maybe not. There's all kinds of opportunities for adversaries to gain access. There's also, so if you think about the insider threat that our customers face in these classified environments, which is the number one concern that they have. Now, those internal actors, those bad actors, have another way to potentially disrupt or steal data and take it out of an environment that they that our customers may not know exist, right? Or may not see as an opportunity. So there's so many more ways that uh, that classified environment can be attacked or used in a nefarious way when OT systems are attached.
So, how is Cisco helping agencies take on this challenge of managing all of the IT and the OT? I can't imagine that a network engineer ever gets any sleep.
Yeah, so it is very challenging. One of the things that we at Cisco bring is a unified security architecture, right? We're trying to bring IT and OT environments together and using solutions like cyber vision and identity services engine and our secure firewall, our secure network analytics capabilities. So we want to bring those together and build a unified architecture that does zero trust and segmentation across both IT and OT environments that give the customer a way to keep OT separate from IT where it needs to be and bring them together where there's some level of trust established between the two when they have to overlay on top of one another's networks. The other thing we're doing is providing visibility and monitoring. So we with Splunk, our recent acquisition, we provide that observability into what's going on inside the network and understand uh, where where things are, as well as what we're seeing from an observability point of view, as well as a security point of view, and providing that data and getting those insights to the network help our federal agencies understand. And then on top of that, we're trying to establish those trusted platforms within agencies. So think about like securing the switch to the cloud, to the endpoint, right? Trying to establish trust across that entire environment so agencies can enforce policy effectively and data flows from a data center to a campus or to those industrial sites or and back to the cloud or back to the data center in a very trusted manner where their level of security and their level of certainty about those devices is as high as we possibly can. Lastly, the partnership that Cisco has where we are tightly aligned to the standards bodies, the integrators, the different agencies that are asking us to meet the federal requirements, whether it's NIST requirements, FedRAMP requirements, the DoD IL5, IL6 and, requirements, or just mission critical requirements that are within a certain agency's mission. We're all trying to align our solutions to those requirements to help a customer have confidence in the trust and credibility of those devices as they come on and off the network. It's all a challenge. Our uh, our network analysts and security analysts that we work with day in and day out, you're right. It is sometimes a nightmare, but we're helping them get through it.
Well, that complexity on the back end to make the front end seem somewhat simpler is a pretty amazing structure. When you think about putting all of those pieces in place, what are the top priorities for ensuring security and resilience across both your IT and your OT environments?
So when you look at bringing IT and OT together, we have this proliferation of these OT devices that are coming onto an IT network. The first thing we want to do is establish visibility. You can't protect what you can't see. If you don't understand what's coming on the network, discover those and continuously monitoring those devices' activities on the network, you can't defend it. That's foundational to any cybersecurity program. And then the next thing we want to do is take and isolate those devices or segment them off and apply policy that is specific to those devices. And we do that in many different ways, but that segmentation is critical. And then as we apply that policy, we want to make sure that we're applying zero trust controls that align to the type of device, the workloads the device has, the people that are accessing that device. Maybe that device is not something that gets logged into actively and has users on it. Maybe it's just providing telemetry or data to a user on the other end, but we still need to understand what data and where the device is, how it's gaining access to the network, so we can apply the necessary controls to ensure the integrity of the device and the network. And lastly, we want to we ask our customers to really focus on having an incident response capability built in, because as these OT environments continue to grow, you have to be able to respond in a way that has defined playbooks and response plans set in place. So when you get attacked, when these bad things happen, you know how to respond. And you need to exercise those responses with doing tabletop exercises, putting people in situations and see how they respond to the the scenario. So when it actually happens, you're ready. And let's not forget, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention there are many federal mandates, executive orders on cybersecurity, all the things that we have to do to align to the NIST frameworks. We have to ensure our customers are meeting those compliance. Uh, we have to ensure our customers are meeting the compliance that's necessary for them to operate their network in the agency or program that they have.
So, as you're thinking about all of those different steps, segmentation, zero trust, incident response, how can AI and automation be applied safely and securely in this space? How do you make them helpful and not just one more burden that your network engineers are managing?
Right. So AI is definitely a new buzzword, but Cisco's been doing AI and machine learning for a very long time. Has it been using large language models and generative AI and agentic AI? No, we're starting to use that now, or we've been using that for a few years now. But AI is a force. It's lessening the load on the security analysts and the network analysts to allow them to be more proactive and give them the opportunity to um, move the network security and the network operations um, further and more seamlessly, so that user and customer interface and how they use the network seems, like you said, more seamless and more capable. And we're using that to like learn those OT and IT environments through telemetry and other data that we're gathering, so we can spot the anomalies and understand that, hey, that industrial protocol should not behave that way. That's not normal. And have AI alert IT on how those things are happening. And lastly, probably the biggest thing that we've seen is being able to take an AI or an agentic AI and have it follow a series of playbooks or a strategy that you set forward to do policy enforcement in an automated fashion. After you've trained it, you understand how it's moving or how it's going to behave when you're giving certain criteria or certain observed behaviors on the network, that it should take the right actions to safely and precisely apply security to prevent that adversary or prevent someone from doing something malicious on the network. That helps reduce the human error that we potentially have, that happens often when we're trying to react to a situation. So AI is doing a lot of things that has the power to make our lives as cybersecurity folks. It has that power to make things a whole lot easier for us and for our customers within those federal agencies.
One of the things you just mentioned was human error. And I can't help but think, as you've described this really complex threat environment, lots of vectors, real challenges in maintaining security, and introducing AI into that, keeping your workforce up to speed has got to be a perpetual challenge. What workforce skills would you say are critical in maintaining resilience across these interconnected systems?
Well, some of the things that we're starting to see in the workforce, whether it's at Cisco or whether it's in our customers within the public sector or specifically when in federal, is a need for like this cross-domain expertise. You need to understand both the IT environment, think protocols like TCP/IP and cloud infrastructures and how networks work, but you also need to understand those OT systems and how SCADA or Modbus, those different protocols work. But you also have to understand cybersecurity. So there's zero trust principles that you need to be able to apply. You need to understand how to turn on or react to an incident, turn on the incident response capabilities within the network or within a team. And you have to be aware of your compliance around the various pieces of the OT environment. Automation is key. Understanding the AI capabilities that are embedded in the network that may help you be more proficient and react faster, but also help you with the automation and orchestrating, whether that's security automation tools or network automation tools. Those are very, very important. And lastly, some collaboration, right? The human skills of being able to pick up the phone and call somebody and break down the silos of, hey, that's an OT problem, not an IT problem. We have to get past that. We see that often in as these environments are merging or coming together, where these two separate groups within our customer base are now having to work together. So having those collaborations and communication skills are key to bringing people together to respond to a potential incident or to build out the network to make it more resilient as we move forward.
It sounds like you're going to send your HR folks out on a hunt for unicorns to fill those spaces.
Well, you
So,
got to build upon that, Terry, right? So that's ideal, right? So you find the right people, and you get them training and capabilities as you move forward. I would love to say Cisco hires all those great people, and we have federal agencies that hire all those great people, but that's just not the case. You're right, those are unicorn type people, and but we can build those capabilities or those characteristics into people by training and enablement as we move through their career.
are there particular training programs or certifications that you think are especially relevant to, as you say, build those, train those unicorns?
So I I've I'm a big believer in experience and hands-on experience. So I do believe that there are many vendor certifications that you could get that are definitely helpful, but the best training environment is hands-on experience and putting people in front of keyboards or in situations where they have to respond and they learn from um, whether it's an exercise or a real world event. That's the best teacher, right? So experience counts, and we have to have people doing these jobs and learning from the day in and day out, and bringing about that experience and bringing it to bear, I guess is the right way to say that, on what we need are those folks to gain that experience so we can bring that to bear on the cybersecurity elements of the network or on the network itself to make it more secure and more resilient for our federal agencies.
Well, those training programs are key to helping people stay current with the technology, but the technology is changing so quickly. So, tell us what's on the horizon when it comes to new technologies and strategies that are going to be key to maintaining this IT OT interface.
Yeah, so there's quite a few things that when you go to conferences or when you go to these national events that people are talking about or beginning to talk about. There's advances in zero trust for OT where we're applying identity, not just the information about what the device is, but where it is, when it's coming on the network, when it actually talks and sends data or telemetry across, and understanding what workloads it connects to. So, understanding more about the specific device itself and its identity, and having policies and decisions made based on identity. Identity is becoming the new edge in the network. That's huge. I wouldn't it wouldn't be a federal conversation about security if we didn't mention quantum resistant cryptography. Post quantum crypto is coming. There's a few standards right now. I know that NSA and the DoD, as well as many other federal agencies, are working really hard to kind of finalize the standards that's being proposed so the industry can get out in front of it and secure the environment from that point of view. So we're also looking at being able to embed threat detection inside of the industrial edge for a more real-time response. So as more OTM devices come on the network, we need more of the switching or network capabilities that are we find in the IT environment, in the OT environment to respond as near real time to a potential malicious or adversary acting bad in that OT environment. And instead of waiting a few minutes or a few hours or whatever the time may be, we want to get as close to real time response when we see um, the bad behavior within that environment. So that's coming as well. We talked about AI. I do believe AI will find its way closer and closer to the OT environment and make sure that we're adhering to not only detection, but in a response capability to those federal operations and federal agency capabilities when it comes to the OT environments they run. And then lastly, resilient architectures, like building upon redundancy, self-healing networks, and continuing operational continuity around strategies that we use in the IT environment, in the OT environment, will continue to evolve as we move forward.
That's a lot to keep track of.
Yes, there's a lot there.
I'd like to thank today's guest, Michael Overstreet, the Director of Security Solutions Engineering for U.S. Public Sector at Cisco. I'm Terry Gerton, and you're watching Federal News Network. Now let me send you back to the studio for more on the Cyber Leaders Exchange.